So in our today's video, we are going to talk about step-by-step guide to starting beekeeping in Nigeria, a practical approach for beginners. We are going to start with the introduction. Beekeeping is the practice of managing bee colonies for honey production and pollination. In Nigeria, beekeeping is a profitable venture with environmental benefits like increasing crop yield. This increasing crop yield means one might be wondering, what do you mean by increasing crop yield? You know that bees move from one flower to the other, and the more they move, the more they pollinate. Once they gather pollen from this flower, they take it, once they get to the next flower, the pollen they got from this one will be deposited in other flowers. So imagine when they come to a farmland where you plant your crops. When those crops starts blooming, the flower starts blooming, bees will help in what we call cross pollination. So that is why it is said that they increase the crop yield. So let's continue. So the next one is understanding bees and their colony. A bee colony consists of queen bee, worker bee, and drone. So the only egg-laying bee responsible for colony reproduction is the queen bee. Without the queen bee, there's not going to be any colony. The colony can never survive without a queen because it is the sole responsibility of the queen bee to lay eggs. So once there is no queen in a colony, it means that that colony is not going to exist. It will go extinct. Nothing will happen. So that's why queen bee is very, very important in the bee colony. The next one is worker bees. Perform all hive duties, including collecting nectar, making honey, and protecting the hive. So these are the works of the worker bee. They are the smaller bees. The queen bee is bigger. So the worker bees are they are smaller. So they are the ones that move around. The bees you see flying around, they are the worker bees. They are ladies. Even the queen is a lady also. They walk around, gather food, protect their hive, and make honey. The honey that will normally go to harvest. It is the work of the worker bees to do that. The next one is the drone. Male bees responsible for mating with the queen. That is their only job in the hive. Their only job is to mate with the queen. They are also important because without the drones, there won't be reproduction and there won't be bees. Because once a drone mates with a queen, that's it for the drone. The drone will die instantly. After mating, the drone will die instantly. And for a queen, once there's a new queen in a colony, that queen goes out for mate flight. She will go out to mate with the drones, and a queen mates once in her lifetime. So she will not mate with only one drone. There are about many drones she will meet that day and comes back to the hive. So let's continue. So the next one is choosing the right location. A good beekeeping site should have plenty of flowers and nectar, a nearby water source, and protection from strong winds, predator, and human disturbance. So what this means is that if you want to site your apiary, you must consider foraging in mind. You must have foraging in mind. Foraging being where they will get their food, the source of their food. That is the flower. It's for nectar. That bees get their food from flowers. The nectar they suck out from the flower. That is what they use in producing this honey that will go to harvest. So the next one is the nearby water source. Bees need water in their life, honestly, because sometimes when the weather is hot, they need water to cool their hive. When there's no, imagine that the weather is so hot and you are so thirsty, you need water to drink. So the essence of water in human life. That is how it is in bees. And protection from strong winds. Bees can be blown away with, by any strong wind. So if you're going to site your apiary, make sure that where they are sited is not where you have strong winds. Okay, so just keep them, maybe face their entrances where the wind is not strong, that it will not be. So you must know the wind direction. Predators and human disturbance. Predators like let's say honey badger, you have termites, you have insects, and other things. So you must make sure that all those predators are not around. Then human disturbance, you don't need to site your apiary where people normally move around all the time, by the roadside, near the school, near the church, where people are. Bees needs a quiet environment for them to strive. That's why it is also always advisable to site your bee like 500 meters away from humans, so that they will not be disturbed. So let's check. The next one is selecting the right hive type. This is very, very important also. Common hives options include Langstroth hive. It is a modern box type hive with removable frames, ideal for large-scale honey production. Kenyan top bar hive. Okay, let me explain the Langstroth hive. Langstroth hive is a modern box, as I have read here. It comes with two boxes. One below it is called the brood box. The one on top is called the super. And in between them is what we call queen excluder. That queen excluder prevents bees from crawling. Sorry, prevents the queen bee from crawling from the brooder inside the super, because super is where the worker bees produce all the honey they need. Instead of them to produce, though they will still produce honey in the brooder, but the excluder prevents the queen from going into the super to lay her eggs. So when you're going to harvest, you harvest from the super. You don't have any business going to the brooder. What the brooder does is where the queen lays her egg and reproduce. That is for reproduction, and the super is for honey harvesting. So Kenyan top bar hive, a simple horizontal hive that is easy to manage. As it is here, it is very, very easy. It's just a box. It's just a box. You can see it or you can see the image that have top bars. It is originated from Kenya. That's why it is called Kenya top bar hive. Then the Langstroth is an American. It originated from America by Lorenzo Langstroth. That's the man who introduced the Langstroth hive. So Kenya top bar hive is just a simple hive, but these days they've started putting queen excluder in Kenya top bar hive. Normally, some people will just leave it like that, and they will just go and they won't put any queen excluder. All they need to do is, whenever the hive is ripe for harvesting, they will go and do the harvesting, not minding whether the eggs are there or not, but at least they know where to harvest from. Once the honey is ripe, they know the frames to harvest from. Now you have a traditional hive, usually made from logs or clay, requiring less investment but yielding lower honey quantity. These ones are just old-fashioned way of beekeeping, as you can see it in the image here. The disadvantage is that you can't manage the hive, you can't supervise it, also you cannot inspect the hive, and it is not that easy for harvesting. You can see how tiny it is. It is not that easy for harvesting and yield small quantity of honey. So let's go to the next step. So acquiring beekeeping equipment. Essential tools include a smoker to calm the bees. With this smoker, we cannot go to an apiary. You cannot visit an apiary without your smoker. It is very, very essential, very, very important, because in fact, in our next lesson, I'm going to tell you the work of the smoker, why you smoke your bees. Now, the next one, a hive tool. A hive tool for opening the hive. As you can see it in this image, it is somehow the way it is. You can use it to, pull out frames that have been gummed together with what they call propolis. Propolis is something that bees, they get it from the tree and they use it to cover or any hole in their hive that they cannot enter. They will seal it up with propolis so that intruders will not come in from there. So with that hive tool, it will gum the frame together. So it is the work of that hive tool that you can use to separate it and be able to bring the frame out. The next one is a bee suit. Of course, you cannot just go to your apiary without wearing your suit. You know what will happen to you. The bees are going to sting you. And especially as we are talking about African bees, Africanized bees, they are called killer bees. They can sting to death. So that's why it is very, very necessary to guard yourself by wearing the bee suits and gloves. Also, they go together for protection, and a bee brush for handling bees gently. So when you go for your harvesting or for inspection, if you want to look at the combs, once you pull it out from the frame, you will now use the bee brush, gently brush off the bees so that you'll be able to see clearly what is happening inside those honeycombs. So let's go to the next one. Getting bees for your apiary. Now, you can obtain bees by baiting with lemongrass oil. This attracts wild bees to occupy your hive. So lemongrass oil is it has a leaf. At least all of us know what a lemongrass is. So the oil has been extracted, so you can use that lemongrass essential oil to bait your hive. You can also use the lemongrass leaf. When you squeeze it, you can use it to rub it all over inside your hive, at the entrance of your hive. Reason being that this lemongrass has the pheromone of a queen bee. It smells, that aroma of lemongrass smells like a queen bee. So when scout bees, those bees that are looking for nests, looking for accommodation, when they perceive the aroma of the lemongrass, it looks as if there's a queen bee there. And you know what a queen bee means to the apiary. So it will lure them to that box, and they will be able to stay, and they will go and inform others, hey, we've seen a hive, we've seen a good accommodation, let's go there. So all of them will go and occupy, or rather, let me use the correct word, colonize that hive. The next one is buying from a beekeeper. Ensures you get an already established colony. So you can also buy bees, but in Nigeria, I don't think we do that here in Nigeria. It is abroad where I know that they have people who sell bees. You can go and, instead of baiting your boxes and put it inside the forest for bees to come and colonize, you can actually go to sellers and buy from them, and bring it to your apiary and transfer them there. They will stay there, and they will not, because it normally comes with the queen bee. So I don't think it is being practiced here in Nigeria. Capturing a swarm. Riskier, but can be effective if done correctly. So this is another way you can actually get bees, by setting what we call swarm trap. Swarm is a group of bees that are moving from one end to the another. That is a bee swarm. So to catch them, all you need to do is to get a catcher box, or you use bucket. A catcher box is smaller, with holes on it. So you bait those catcher box or the buckets and go inside the forest and hang them on a tree, like 15 to 12 feet above the ground, because the scout bees normally move up. That's the height they can go. So once you keep them there, or if you know where bees normally gather or move around, maybe there's a flowering plant there, you can keep those catcher box there. It will help you to get the bees on time. So let's move to the next one. Hive installation and baiting. Though we've talked about baiting, so proper hive placement is key to attracting bees. Position hives in a shaded area and use natural attractants like beeswax or lemongrass. So we've talked about baiting bees. Just when you want to get bees to your apiary, you bait. So this is another way. When you want to install your apiary, when you've got to your good location for your apiary, you space them depending on the size of your apiary. You might make it 5 meters apart. You might make it 10 meters depending on the size of your land. You can even make them 2 meters apart. Then you now bait with beeswax. That's another thing you can use to bait your hive to attract bees. Beeswax is those honeycomb. When it must have been extracted, when honey must have been extracted from it, you now refine it, you process it, you extract it and get the beeswax. You can now use those beeswax to also bait your boxes. And lemongrass, I've mentioned it on the other slide. So in our next video, we are going to talk about regular hive inspections and maintenance. We are going to look at how often you inspect your hive, how often you manage your hive, how many days or how many weeks you can go to your hive, which is very, very important in beekeeping. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that whenever we drop any video on this beekeeping tips, you'll be the first to get it. Thank you and have a wonderful day.